boys and girls, and welcome back. Today is Tuesday, March 16th, and as you can see, I already have today's calendar piece displayed for you. And maybe you see that it doesn't follow the rule that we just figured out the other day. Before we start though, I do want to say I hope you had a great weekend, and I hope you were very productive on your e-learning day and got all the work that you needed to get done, so that you can now focus on today and being here in the present. So with that being said, last week we figured out that our rule was that we multiply by 3 and then add 1. And so this follows that pattern. You multiply by 3 and then add 1, you get 40. Follows the pattern. It also was following the pattern of adding 3 to the number that came out from the day before. But now here we are on March 16th. Something funky is going on. So now we're going to have to figure out what's happening with this function or this program for this function machine. But we're not going to talk about that today. Today is Tuesday, it's the first day of the week, and it just so happens that we are going to focus on our fraction race. So you need to get out your fraction pieces. Again, if you don't have your fraction pieces, then maybe you can use an app to follow along with me, because we need to figure out who's in the lead for week number 2. And after we figure out who's in the lead, then we will spin for yesterday, which was our e-learning day. It does count as a day of school. And then for today as well, so that by the time we finish this video, we will have 2 new fractions to add to our fraction race. So before we do that, go ahead and look at your score. 1/6, a third, a half, and a sixth. And look at mine, a half, a sixth, a 12th, a sixth, a third. And make a prediction. Who do you think has a bigger sum for week number 2? Meaning, if you were to add up all your fractions for week 2, and I were to add up all my fractions for week 2, who would win? Would you guys win? Or would Miss Trammell win? Have you made your prediction? Well, today we're going to figure out if you are right. Now, just by looking at it, can we see that we already have a whole here? Do y'all know that a half and a half is a whole? I hope so. Go ahead and get out your pieces if you haven't done so already. Hopefully you are ready by now. And open up your number corner journals if you haven't already, so that we can start adding some pieces here. Okay, we've already done week 1, and it just so happened that you guys ended with 1 whole after week 1, and I ended with 1 and 5/12. And so now we're gonna go to week 2. We're continuing because our goal is to see who's gonna fill up all 6 of these first. So it's not really a winner by a weekly basis, but more so to see who's closer to filling up all 6. But we can think in terms of weeks for now. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and add you guys your pieces first, and we're gonna do that together. So we have a half, and then we have another half. And we know that a half and a half equals what? Yes, 2 halves, which is 1 whole. So far we have added 2 of our 5 fractions that we need to add to fill up our collection sheet. So keep up with me if you're gluing your pieces, and if you're building it on a separate platform or drawing it or whatever it is that you're able to do, so that you are practicing adding fractions. Okay, so we have a half. Now we have 1/3 and then 1/6 and 1/6. So I'm going to ask you, what do we know about 6's relationship to the third? What do we know? So I'm going to pull out my 6 here just to show you. And I'm going to pull out my third. What's the relationship? Good. Do you see that 1/6 is half of a third? So then how many 6 would I need to add to give me a third? It would be 2 6. So I have a third left over, and then I have 2/6, which is going to give me essentially 2/3 into my next hole. So let's go ahead and fill that in. I'm going to add my bigger piece first. I have my third, and then I have my 6th, and my other 6th, which should take up the same amount of space as a third if I were to put a third over it, and perfect, it does. Yay. Yeah, maybe a little off, but that's okay. So let's go ahead. If you're still gluing, go ahead and pause this video. And if you are done gluing, then we need to write our equation for what we have just done. What we just did, we need to write our equation. And that's going to look something like this. We had 1/2, and we had another 1/2, and then we added 1/3. Notice today I added them in order from bigger fractions to the smaller fractions. You guys know the difference between those, right? The more pieces you have, the smaller the size of the piece. And what do we get? For you guys, you can easily see that we filled up a hole and then we filled up another piece, another fraction of a hole, which would be 1 and 2/3. I can say 1 and 2/3 because remember we talked about 2/6 is equivalent or is the same as 1/3. I could also say 4/6 because I could put 2 of the 6 pieces on top of this to make equivalent fractions in order for me, or fractions with common denominators, in order for me to be able to add them together. So if you got 1 and 4/6, you're right for week 2. If you got 1 and 2/3, you're also correct because those are equivalent. Now, the thing is though, we're racing to a whole. So really, essentially, we've added all these fractions together and we've landed here. How many holes have we filled up thus far? Yeah, we have, and I can write a separate equation. We have 1 hole, plus we have another hole, and then we have, what did we say this fraction was right here? How much of a hole do we have filled up here? Right, 4/6 or 2/3. So I can write it like this. And so my total so far is 2 holes and 2/3, or 2 holes and 4/6. Okay? So you guys, obviously right now you are farther ahead than I am, but I still have to add my pieces. If you haven't finished catching up with me, remember you can pause this video at any time, but we need to work together right now to go ahead and add up my fractions, and then we'll spin for yesterday and today. Okay? So let's look back and see what I got. I got 1/2, 2/6, a third, and a 12th. 1/2, and I'm going to write that down, 2/6, a third, and a 12th. 1/2, 2/6, a third, and a 12th. Now, mine is a little more tricky than what yours was because I'm not starting on a blank hole. I want to finish this hole before I move to the next one. And right here, I already have 5/12. I know that I'm adding 1/12, and then I'm also adding 2/6 to that, which could easily translate into 12. So I'm going to go backwards. With you guys, I added your bigger fractions and then put your smaller fractions. But because I have already filled in another fractional piece of a whole, I'm going to go ahead and add another 12 here. Maybe, if it decides to move with me. Okay, so I'm going to add another 12 here. And what do we know about 6/12? Good, 6/12 is equivalent to 1/2. So I have 1/2 represented so far. And lucky for me, I have another half that I'm supposed to add. Remember? You don't? Just to show you. I just did my 1/12 and I'm going to put a check here. Now I'm going to add my half. And do you see why? I'm adding my half because it completes a whole, right? So I can go back here and I can check my whole or check my half. Now I need to add 2/6 and 1/3. And what did we just say about the relationship with 6 and 1/3? Good. 1/6 is half of 1/3. 2/6 is equivalent to 1/3. So since I have 2/6 here and 1/3, I could just add 1/3 and then another 1/3 because 1/6 plus another 6 equals, ooh, that was a funky 6, 1/3 because 2/6 equal 1/3. All right, so I'm going to add 2/3, okay? And my gosh, what do you notice? What do you notice? You guys had 2 2/3. Now Miss Trammell has 2 2/3. You guys caught up to me. We are now even. So if we were racing, it would be like we're neck and neck. We're going at the same speed. So I guess we need a tiebreaker to see who's going to win, and we'll get that as we spin for our new fractions from yesterday and for today. But first, just like I did with yours, let me go ahead and write my equation for what I added today. I started with 1/12. Then I added my half because I completed my whole. Then I added my 1/3. And then I knew that 1/6 plus 1/6 was 1/3. But I'm going to write it out just so you guys can see all of my fractions that I added today. And if I were to think about it in terms of how much does this equal, let's see. We have 2/6 here. We have 1/3. We have a half, and we have a 12. We need to create some common denominators. So I'm going to say 1/12 plus, how many 12ths is in a half? 6 12ths. And then we know we have 1/3 and then another 1/3 because 1/6 plus 1/6 is 1/3. So I could say plus 2/3. But I know that I need to make an equivalent fraction with 2/3 with 12ths. How do we do that? How many 12ths is 1/3? Let's figure it out. If you don't already know how to use multiplication to find equivalence, then we can do it by looking at the size of the piece. How many 12ths would it take for me to fill up 1/3? How many do you think? Just by looking at that. Good. 4 12ths is 1/3. So then how many 12ths would be 2/3? Right, 8 12ths. So I'm going to write that instead of 2/3. I'll write 8 12ths. So now how many 12ths do we have? We have 1/12 plus 6 12ths, 7 12ths plus 8 12ths equals 15 12ths. So today I was able to add 1 whole and 3 12ths. Okay, that's what Ms. Trammell added for today. And where did my equation go? It disappeared. No. Oh, here it is. I see it. It's here. Let me bring it down here. And for some reason it didn't save what I did just now. You know that 2/3 was, right, we said 8 12ths, so that gave us 15 12ths, which is 1 and 3 12ths. Perfect. So that's what I added to mine today. You guys added, geez, cooperate with me today, please. You guys added 1 and 2/3. I added 1 and 3 12ths. which is a smaller amount, but since I was farther ahead, you guys were able to catch up with me, and I was able to not lose. That's what I'll call it. So I have a total of 1 5/12 plus, I just said 1 3/12, which gives me 2 8/12, which is the same thing as 2 2/3. And you can see that easily by looking at my picture here. Okay, so we're even for now. So before we end this video, let's go ahead and spin for our fractions for yesterday and today. So you guys get the first number, which is 1/6. And then so now we're on week 3 of March. How crazy is that? Time goes by so quickly. Oh, y'all see that's 1/2, right? I'm gonna zoom in just for you. I got 1/2, so I'm gonna add 1/2. 1/2. Yes, that puts me back ahead. But maybe not for long. It's a game of chance because we're spinning a spinner. So now I'm going to spin again for you for today. So that spin was from yesterday, for Monday, our e-learning day. And this spin is for today. You guys get 1/12. 1/12. And my last spin is going to be, now see that's 1/6, right? The arrow is in the 1/6 region, so I'm going to add a 1/6. But that is not all. Oh no, that is not all, because we still have to collect fractions for the remainder of this week before we figure out what our total is for next time. So you guys have a great rest of your day. I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.